Welcome back, Focus Learners, to another explainer. All right, let's just jump right into it. Today, we're unpacking the true science of motivation. So if you've ever felt like your drive is just running on empty, or maybe you're inexplicably exhausted right after hitting a massive goal, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. We're going to dissect the actual neurobiology of drive, look at the literal biological mechanics that push us forward, and figure out how you can finally take back the steering wheel.
Let me ask you this. What if everything you've been told about the brain's so-called pleasure molecule is completely, entirely wrong? Seriously, hold on to that thought, because we are about to challenge a deeply ingrained cultural myth. The way we talk about motivation in popular culture, it's basically backward compared to what the science actually tells us. And understanding this, well, it's not just some fun piece of trivia, it's a massive paradigm shift that can completely change how you structure your daily life.
So let's tear down this illusion. Section 1. The dopamine myth.
We have all seen this specific phrase plastered everywhere. Articles, self-help books, you name it. Dopamine is the brain's pleasure molecule. I mean, it sounds logical, right? You eat some chocolate, you scroll through social media, you get a rush, and you think, yeah, there's that dopamine hit. But here is the wild truth. From a strict neurobiological perspective, that is a massive misconception. Dopamine literally did not evolve to make you feel warm and fuzzy. It evolved to keep us alive.
So, the crucial point is this. Dopamine is actually a neuromodulator that's responsible for motivation, craving, and wanting, not pleasure. Picture this. When you're just sitting around doing nothing, your dopamine neurons are firing at this low, steady baseline rate, maybe 3 or 4 times a second. But the very second you anticipate something you want, boom! That firing rate shoots up to 30 or 40 times a second. It is literally the chemical of pursuit. It narrows your focus and biases your entire body for action to go get that thing, whether it's a cup of coffee or a major promotion.
Let's use a driving metaphor here, because the brain's engineering is just brilliant. Think of the deep parts of your brain, specifically the ventral tegmental area and the nucleus accumbens, as your accelerator. They are the roaring engine of your drive, pushing you to act. But look, if you only had an accelerator, you'd just be this purely pleasure-seeking animal, totally unable to resist a single urge or plan for tomorrow. Thankfully, we've got the prefrontal cortex. That's the neural real estate right behind your forehead, and it acts as the brakes. It provides that much-needed restriction and executive control, managing when and how much dopamine actually gets released. So mastering motivation, it's really all about learning to balance these two systems.
But there's a hidden biological cost to every craving we give into. Section 2. The pleasure-pain balance.
Now, one of the absolutely most critical dynamics of your nervous system is this concept of the mirror image. Basically, for every spike in pleasure you get, your brain naturally creates an equal and opposite downward deflection of pain. Now, you might not feel it as literal physical pain, but rather as this subtle yearning, an ache, or just a craving for more of whatever you just had. Meaning, if you eat a delicious pastry, part of the enjoyment you're feeling is actually the pain of wanting a second one, a pain I'm pretty sure we all know too well. And the really diabolical part? With every repeated indulgence, that pleasure spike gets smaller and smaller, while that downward spike of pain gets deeper and lasts way longer.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that we can literally quantify the response. When you eat food you've been craving, your dopamine increases by about 50% above your baseline. Sex? That doubles your baseline, a straight-up 100% increase. Nicotine spikes it by 150% in mere seconds. And illicit drugs like cocaine? A devastating 1,000% spike. When you force massive, unnatural spikes like that, the corresponding downward deflection of pain is just agonizing. It traps the user in this closed loop, rapidly seeking the substance just to relieve the intense biological pain of not having it. It perfectly shows exactly why unearned, massive spikes lead to such devastating crashes.
So, if dopamine is constantly dragging us forward into the future, how do we ever find peace? Let's dive into Section 3, the here and now.
We really have to look at 2 entirely different neurochemical states here. First up, dopamine. This is all about exteroception, looking outside the physical confines of your own skin. It's totally future-focused, basically always desiring what you don't have yet. But on the flip side, we have molecules like serotonin and endocannabinoids. These are your here and now molecules. They're all about interoception, feeling content in the present moment, being completely satisfied with what's currently inside your personal space. If you want a genuinely healthy emotional landscape, you can't just be a dopamine-driven robot. You have to actively practice shifting into that serotonin state. Maybe that's through mindfulness or literally just focusing entirely on the taste of your dinner, deliberately stopping your brain from constantly projecting into the future.
Okay, let's apply all this neurobiology to a problem I know we all face. Why do we stall? Section 4. 2 types of procrastinators.
Science actually shows us that procrastinators generally fall into 2 distinct neurobiological camps. First, you've got the stress-driven procrastinator. This is the person who genuinely relies on the sheer anxiety of an impending deadline to trigger a rush of epinephrine or adrenaline. They literally can't focus until the stress narrows their vision and practically forces them to act. Then, on the other hand, we have the low dopamine procrastinator. For them, their baseline dopamine firing rate is just too low to initiate action without some kind of external push. Figuring out which one you are is absolutely crucial. A stress-driven person might use rapid breathing exercises to safely self-direct that adrenaline, while a low dopamine person might need to look at safe, science-backed dietary tweaks to slowly raise their motivation baseline.
But what actually happens when we finally cross the finish line and succeed? Section 5, the dopamine crash.
There's this biological mechanism that drives high achievers absolutely crazy. When you hit a massive goal, you ace the exam, you launch the startup, you publish the book, your dopamine initially spikes. But almost immediately after, it's dropped sharply, and this other hormone called prolactin heavily spikes. Prolactin intentionally creates a refractory period of lethargy. It essentially slams the brakes on your motivation system, making you feel dull, tired, and just unmotivated to do anything else. It's a literal evolutionary cooldown period. So the next time you feel a little empty after a major win, recognize it for what it actually is, a temporary prolactin spike. It's not a sudden loss of your life's purpose.
So, how do we actually navigate all these spikes, crashes, and cravings? Let's get into the actionable stuff. Section 6, mastering your dopamine schedule.
Let's kick this off with a very specific number, 200 milligrams. That's roughly the amount of caffeine you'd find in a standard medium cup of coffee. But it also happens to be the center of a super fascinating 2021 university study that proves just how unbelievably subjective our dopamine system really is.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer power of belief. In this study, college students were given 200 milligrams of caffeine. But here's the catch. They were told they were actually receiving Adderall, which is a much stronger stimulant, famous for creating intense focus. Because these students fully expected the massive dopamine hit associated with Adderall, they actually reported feeling high. And get this, they demonstrated significantly improved working memory and focus compared to the control group who thought they were just getting regular caffeine. Your top-down cognitive belief about a stimulant literally alters your brain's physical dopamine response. How wild is that?
Knowing that our minds can actively influence our neurochemistry like that, we can borrow what I like to call the Las Vegas Playbook. Casinos know perfectly well that intermittent reinforcement is literally the most powerful dopamine reward schedule on Earth. It's the whole slot machine effect. You don't win every single time. You win just unpredictably enough to keep the hope and the anticipation alive. Well, we can ethically hack this exact same system to fuel our own long-term goals, all without burning out.
Here is exactly how you can set up your own dopamine schedule. Step 1, set your milestone. Step 2, put in the hard work and achieve the goal. But here is the absolute game changer. In step 3, actively choose not to celebrate every single time. Seriously. By intentionally skipping the reward every now and again, you prevent that massive dopamine spike that inevitably leads to the crushing prolactin low we just talked about. You keep your brain slightly hungry, making sure you're continuously motivated for the next big milestone.
Let's look at how this plays out in the real world. Take this incredible story about Dr. Barbara Chapman, a brilliant graduate advisor. When one of her students hit this massive milestone of getting published in a top-tier science journal, instead of, throwing a huge party, she just looked at him and said, "I think we should skip this one. Maybe when you get like 4 more." Now, I know that sounds incredibly harsh, but she was intentionally placing her student on an intermittent reinforcement schedule. She forced the student to find the real reward in the actual daily work and the pursuit of science itself, rather than relying on an external celebration and the inevitable dopamine crash that follows.
Which leads us to the ultimate question you really need to ask yourself as we wrap up this explainer. Are you controlling your dopamine schedule, or is the world controlling it for you? Social media, junk food, casinos, they have all engineered brilliant, highly effective ways to hijack your neurobiology. But hey, now you know the actual mechanics. You know how to balance that exteroceptive, future-focused drive of dopamine with the present-moment contentment of serotonin. And you know how to withhold rewards to keep your motivation burning bright and completely avoid the crash. The steering wheel is finally back in your hands. Thanks so much for joining me, and I challenge you to start optimizing your own brain today.